Ready. Perfect. Thank you, guys. And let me start by saying, wow, this runway, I think nobody really took advantage of it. I will. I don't see any chances in the near term of getting hired by Armani or Versace, so let me please take advantage of this space. And of course, thank you very much for staying until the end. Dominic, which by the way is over there, and is the best boss I've ever had in my life, gave me a very interesting task. What he said is, Esteban, you have to summarize everything what all these great minds say during the conference, extract the key takeaways for the individual, a family, and a business in general, and put all of this in a nice presentation in real time, no? So that was, of course, easy. And, of course, at the end, he said, and bring me a piña colada, no? But that's the way he treats me. So for today, what we prepared for you is exactly that, a brief summary of what we saw during the last couple of days. And you know very well the key themes that we tried to touch on since yesterday, a little bit on Wednesday night. It was these three: technology and the disruptive potential, how technology is applied in the real world, and the future of several things, such as, of course, education and work and many things we saw today. And let me start again. These are just some of the things that we found most interesting, not the most important things you heard during all these days, but things that, again, apply to you as an individual, to your families, and to the businesses that you all have, no? And I'll start with this first topic that we had during the conference of AI and human creativity. And I'll start with the one in the center, no? Because I think that's one of the key messages that we heard, how humans and machines working together can achieve many, many more things than humans themselves or machines themselves. Actually, we heard several interesting ideas, such as humans for many, many years trying to make machines think as humans, when we were not really even sure how humans think. And the examples of chess and how new chess players are taking advantage of that, I think, are really enlightening. We also heard about the values, no? And how all these very complex processes and machines that use statistics and data are not really able to take decisions, because those decisions are really, at the end, based on values. And how, at the end, a human has to take a decision based on values. We saw examples of how those decisions taken by machines are really not the best. If you remember, that movie clip that we saw is the best example of that. And finally, a very nerdy term, genetic algorithms. But that was exactly the example of the machine trying to figure out what to do with two wheels and how to solve a problem. And the idea behind the genetic algorithms was simple, no? Machines have been given the room to do what nature has done for millions of years, which is try and try and try different alternatives until one of those works. The problem of that is that we humans try to take decisions while that process is taking place. So we end up with decisions that are based on numbers that don't make sense, or numbers that are wrong, or hints of a potential result that is not really accurate. No, the famous example we saw about snowstorms. Then we also touched a little bit on blockchain and how that might change the future. And we saw several key ideas behind the technology. I think the most interesting one is probably the one in the center, no? How blockchain is trying to get rid of many of the not so useful stuff that we have in internet and in many things that we do in our usual life, such as having someone regulating what we are able to communicate, how we communicate it, how we share that information, and collaboration at the end, of course, being the key idea behind how blockchain works. And just let me use 10 seconds to again differentiate between the technology blockchain, and what we all hear about every day in the news, which is cryptocurrencies. No, cryptocurrencies is really just one example of how blockchain can be used to take advantage of that technology. But it is still very early, in our view, to start investing in that potential alternative. No, we have been highlighting for a while that, in our view, the blockchain technology should generate in the next 10 years or so economic value of about $300 to $400 billion, which is not the case for cryptocurrencies right now. We currently struggle to find economic value behind most of them. The idea is great, but right now, not the best alternative to invest your money into. We saw yesterday very interesting examples about how design and innovation are driving a company such as Tesla, and key ideas from Javier, such as, let's start with the dream of Elon many years ago, and how that dream is materializing, how they had to adapt the original idea of the company. No, the original idea was to have a transportation company, and a company really focused on that transportation part of the business model. Now they had to really expand that definition into generating electricity and warehousing that energy. That, of course, is said easily, but you know better than me that once you have a company and a model that's already up and running, changing that business model, changing that vision or that mission is not as easy as I just explained. No? And finally, the idea is simply to excel in whatever you are doing. No? He said, I think, a terrific term. They were given the task of building a superior transportation, let's say, and now they also have to build superior infrastructure to service that transportation. In terms of our second theme of the conference, we also touched on the sustainability in construction and architecture, no? And the numbers you gave us were amazing. No, I remember on CO2. No, just hearing that buildings are more responsible for CO2 emissions than cars and industries. At least for me, that was completely new. No, on water, I remember some numbers you said, but 1% of all the water in the world being fresh water. Again, amazing, and something like. The demand and supply of fresh water reaching, let's say, a critical level in the next few years, where demand will be 40% or so higher than the current supply. Again, amazing numbers, and all of this already, again, hinting into what we want to achieve, which is start giving you some ideas, for example, of where your next businesses and ventures might really go to. In terms of the future of the cities, no, we heard a lot about how that mobility is generating huge problems in the way that the infrastructure works in our current cities. How some of those cities are trying to adapt, no, and this demographic shifts of people moving into urban areas, no, and I was very interested in hearing one of the statistics about I think it was the proportion of traffic in an area such as Manhattan. No, we heard this morning that something like 30% of that traffic is really tied to cars looking for a parking space. No, so if you imagine that, then again, I hope this is already triggering some ideas in your mind of maybe potential businesses in the future. No. Education, extremely interesting. How we have to rethink education, no, from simply trying to teach our children what we were taught and just throwing a couple of things in there, such as technology. No, that won't work anymore. No, Mark explained this much better than me. How you have to empower all these new generations to really achieve and improve the world rather than just thinking of improving the individual. And finally, this new paradigm for education where really what we have tried in the past hasn't worked. We have to think of this as a bottoms-up approach, no? Where the children have to be probably giving us the direction of where they want to go, what they want to study, what they feel passionate about, simply because that's what will drive their again, motivation in the future to try to really make a difference. No? I remember Dominic's words during dinner the first night when he spoke about his, let's say, his thinking about that moment when his children ask him what they should study. No? And they are, let's say, very young. You have seen them here. And what do you answer? No? What you right now imagine is going to be a decent job area for them in the next 10, 15 years? And probably the way to answer that is going back into some of Mark's ideas is simply let them guide you, tell you where they would like to go, and don't be afraid to really go that way, no? Not all of us have the best answers for those kind of very difficult questions. In terms of the future of work, I love the terms, no? Flexapreneur, well worker, and new value worker, because all of those words really encompass the key idea behind the thinking of these terms, no? What type of worker we are, what type of worker we have in our company is really going to drive our decisions, no? I was thinking of that flexapreneur and the idea of many of those millennials eager to work from home and to work while they are watching Netflix. Well, that's a great idea, and hopefully one that really is efficient in generating value in the companies. But at minimum, we have to take into account that these new generations want to have that type of alternative, no? The world worker and the new value worker. I think that last one is, to me, extremely interesting, simply because we all know that we are medicine and many, many, many more things are allowing us to live longer. And it is now not really even difficult to see people turning 90, 95, 100, and just imagine for our children, probably people turning 120 won't be that strange. And someone turning 120 will probably have to learn 3, 4, 5 different things in his lifetime. And therefore, he will probably value more a job that allows him or her to learn rather than a job that pays him or her the most at the specific moment in time. And finally, in terms of self-sovereign identity, how paper and the digital world are converging, how decentralization is really playing a role, and the machine economy. No, I think this is again very interesting. We have a world where very soon, if not now, we have about 50 billion devices connected at the same time. The only way to make this kind of world function is really through an economy that's able to handle that kind of pressure. This is the last slide that I have for you guys. Some of the key messages that Dominic and I thought for you in terms, again, of the individual, the family, and the business, and some action words that might be useful for you. In terms of the individual, probably, again, start with a dream, foster that dream, and again, think of your children. Try to achieve a certain situation in their life where they are able to really pursue that dream, embrace different ideas. Don't be afraid, again, to let them guide you rather than you having to guide them or feel you have to guide them. In terms of the family, again, empower anyone that can handle responsibilities and these really eager to receive that empowerment from you and help them influence the world they live in, no? Not just work and have a 9-to-5 job, but really have an influence in the world they are living. And finally, in terms of businesses, it was very clear from everything we heard these last couple of days that businesses need to adapt, and that the only way to do that is really through collaboration, and that in particular means adopting technologies and being able to collaborate through technologies with many, many more people in the world. From my side, this is everything. I think Dominic still has some words to say.
Since I'm the only thing between you and lunch, I'm going to keep it short, I promise. I hope that everybody was able to take something away from this event. No? I can tell you, my kids, they're not here right now. I think they went to the room and burnt all their homework. So the whole concept of education, I still hope they didn't understand everything what was said, because otherwise we'll have a motivational issue in the rigid structure of the French school. There are a couple of things that for sure stuck with everybody. Something that I thought was amazing, no, is the whole concept of the future is not evenly distributed. So what we try to do is we try to bring a lot of topics to you that you can take home, that you can think about, you can integrate into your lives, you can see how you can generate value out of it. No? As interesting as these conferences are, and as much of a future outlook we want to give, we also want to make them tangible. So one thing I know about the future is that we will follow up not only with a summary. This is something I haven't told Esteban. He has already done the summary.
I knew it.
Now we'll put it in writing. And we really encourage you to read through that, reflect on it, and also give us feedback as to where you would like to deep dive more. No? This is not just the beginning of a series. It's also the beginning of individual workshops that have already been created by Esteban on various topics. And what we would want to do is bring those as very topical events to you, more as a follow-up learning experience and as an exchange. So with that, I really hope you enjoyed these 2 days with us. I thought it was an amazing balance between seeing the whales yesterday that have been roaming this world for thousands of years, and then having all these interesting speakers that joined us here, sharing with us their wisdom. Some of it was scary to me, I have to say, but I really have to applaud all the speakers, because at the end, they always turned it around and made it positive. So I hope you look into the future as positively as we do. And again, it was such a great pleasure to have you here, and we're inviting you now for the departure lunch.